of my favorite spots to be in Nashville, downtown. Forgive me for not having my selfie stick. Had to come downtown to take care of some business and had to capture the beautiful scenery. One of the fastest growing economies in the country, which consists of Davidson County. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I just had breakfast with a vice president of a land development firm here in Nashville, a very prominent land development firm, for no other reason but to introduce ourselves. We met at a community event. Of course, I'm in the business of connecting the private and public sector to diverse communities, developing communities. And so my job is to consistently network, make sure I'm all over the place, building relationships. One of my greatest tasks during the day is to pass on my business cards. So I invest heavily in my business cards. And then it's very important for me, once I receive a business card, to put it into my customer relationship management system and follow up with that individual at some point through a telephone call or email, just to connect in the future, to see if a working relationship can happen. And the working relationship doesn't necessarily have to be a client, a paying client. It could just be building a relationship and just knowing individuals and being able to go back and forth for whatever reason, either now or in the future. And so, as I'm in that business, ultimately, of communication, pretty much what it is, in public relations, I think it's very important for developers, with all due respect, very important for elected officials at the local to the federal level to do what I call stay ahead of the game. And what does that mean? Stay ahead of the game simply means if you have any plans that you feel are going to manifest at some point soon that is relevant for the residents, local residents and constituents, it's very important that you include those local residents and constituents and neighborhood and community leaders in that planning process. Now, we understand you got to first come up with the idea and the plan, but once you decide to say, hey, it's almost time to move on it, or it's time to move on it, you want to bring those plans, those ideas to the community not quickly, but you want to bring it to them as soon as possible, because out of respect for humanity, out of respect as a human being, everyone wants to feel included. And if you are a local resident or your constituent and you're paying taxes and development is happening in your area, I think it's almost an indirect slap in the face when the development is happening and you're not included and you're putting in financially for the growth of the municipality and the growth of the state and the growth of the country. And so, right, wrong, or indifferent, I just advocate as best I can to developers and elected officials, business owners, stay ahead of the game. And as you stay ahead of the game, you can at least say that you are being corporately socially responsible. Corporate social responsibility is what it's called. I was trying to put it in a sentence. But you'll be responsibly for your corporation. So you'll be responsible for your corporation socially, whatever. I'm messing that part up. But at any rate, and when you do that, it shows at least goodwill. I'm not saying everything has to be perfect, but you're at least giving the neighborhood, the community, a chance to be included, a chance to say, hey, we love it, or, have you thought about changing it this way, changing it that way? And that's where the negotiation and the relationship management process starts. You want to start that as soon as possible. Once that's done, at least from a brand perspective or an elected official perspective, one can't say, well, they never communicated with me, or they didn't do a good job of communicating, because communication really is the whole name of the game. And so keep that in mind. Local residents, local community residents, local constituents, to include myself, very important, especially in these times of humanity, especially during this time of humanity, not just America, not just the state, not just the city, but different countries even, when it comes to economics. As long as we stay within this current economic system, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think it's very important that you as a resident become producer-minded. Producer-minded means someone that is creating something. And that could be something as simple as creating an education, creating your skill. When I say creating, that means starting your education, starting your skill, and then manage and focus on maintaining and increasing your education and increasing your skill. Why that's so important? Because jobs in a career is competitive, and most brands want to find the most talented individual. And when you're applying for those jobs, if you're looking to serve as an employee, which is nothing wrong with that, you want to make sure that you stand out by first knowing yourself, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you like to do, what people need, and what people are willing to pay you for. You know, to include the geographical territory that you live in, because you might have skills, but the geographical territory that you live in is not hiring for those skills right now. So you got to also look at those things. But at any rate, become producer-minded. So nothing wrong with receiving assistance sociably. I've done it and been through it, and it's really helped me personally and my family. But, you know, with all due respect, you can't rely as best you can, and you live through grace, which is effortless beauty. We rely as best we can on receiving that grace, but at the same time, we got to not hold the world, not hold the higher power to the test, put the world, the higher power to the test, and say, hey, we're going to depend on this. Because if you depend on it, sometimes our mindsets can become at that level of the dependence, and we hope that is not the case, but if that dependence is taken away, we're stuck in a hard position, and we're stuck in a hard place, and we have to work our way out of it, which is fine, but it's better to work your way out of something when it's not as pressured or as intense as far as the need, meaning it's better to work your way out of it well in advance before the drama hits, because when you have to work your way out of it, once the drama hits, you're going to work your way out of it, but you're just going through that experience, and it's a lot to go through. And so you want to put yourself in a position where you're able to, and again, this is an economic standpoint. I'm not saying this economic standpoint is the right way or the only way, but this is how you not only survive, but thrive during your time living in your economic community, whatever that is. So ultimately, as my arm gets tired, I don't have my selfie stick with me, become producer-minded. And you need to make sure that you're communicating with your local community organizations, those community leaders, those neighborhood leaders, those neighborhood organizations, and communicate within your organization and come up with a collective vision, a collective mission, and a collective mission, and collective values. Because once you're able to come up with those things, then you can go into the community, both the public and private sector, and make sure that you're explaining your vision, explaining your mission, explaining your values, and that will give you the foundation that you need for growth, both within your own organization and also with the entities that are outside your organization that you are now serving as a diplomat for the greater good of your community. So, hope these things make sense. In the urban development game, my arm's tired, but I'm gonna still go with it. In the urban development game, some things that I feel that I will have to be talking about soon and helping folks to become educated on, that's happening within a growing, ever-changing community. For example, some of the things I'll be talking about, hopefully through grace in the future, is, you know, how do you receive? This is for community leaders. My arm is so tired. This is for community leaders, neighborhood leaders, as well as the business developers and the owners. How do you create community buy-in? How do you create community buy-in? I'm gonna talk about that at some point in the future. But these are conversations that neighborhood leaders, community leaders need to have with their communities and their neighborhoods, and what they need to be educating the residents on. And this is what business owners and developers need to be aware of when community residents are connecting with you. They want to buy in if it's a good plan, if it's a good deal. And the only way it's a good plan or a good deal is by introducing, if you're a business owner or developer, that plan or deal to the neighborhood, and then starting a dialogue consistently, more than once, going back and forth as early as possible. That's the first stage of community buy-in. Again, just because you're having a conversation doesn't mean it's going to be a yes. The other side has their point of view, and you got to respect it and honor it and come up with solutions based upon their perspective, just as much as they got to come up with solutions from your perspective. Also get into conversations when it comes to displacement, moving out and being uprooted. That's a conversation to have. And within that conversation, where do you go within the city, within your region, within your state? Also going to be talking about at some point, and what you should be talking about with your elected officials and your leaders, taxes. How does taxes work? If things are changing, are the taxes going to change? I'm not saying yes or no, but let's have conversations. Increasing the minimum wage. Someone once told me, a wise man once told me not too long ago, the land value continues to increase, but the wage continues to stay the same. So it's hard for anyone to be able to live in an area if the value of the land and the property is increasing, but their income is staying the same. It makes it hard for an individual. Let's just be real, And so, as my arm is almost through, I'm gonna switch hands. Let's be real. Increasing the minimum wage. You got to have that conversation because, the cost of living is going up. Why and how does revitalization happen? Why and how does revitalization happen? And that's just pretty much getting to know and getting to understand, getting to overstand, becoming aware of what they call economic trends within your geographical territory, outside of your geographical territory. And that's a conversation we have to have, or what you should be looking into. I always felt that in order to ensure that you have a stake in your community, you must own property. I mean, it's just you can scream and you can battle all you want, but if you don't have any property, the pursuit of life, liberty, and property. I think it was life, liberty, and happiness, but originally it was life, liberty, and property. And so if you don't have any property and you're renting or leasing, nothing wrong with that. It's hard for you to have a say or get things done as we're in an economic system. So you want to maintain that property. Hold on to it. Don't sell it. That's one of the first things you can do. You ain't got to scream, yell, nothing. Just hold on to your property. Obviously taxes, property taxes, and those things come into play. So you got to come up with additional income streams. Of course, as my business continues to grow, hello. It's on me, sir. The camera's facing me, just to give you a heads up. Have a good rest of the day. Just to give you a heads up, when it comes to moving somewhere, where do you go? What surrounding counties in the region would you go to? Those are conversations. If you want to get deep into it, conversations of why the African American community consistently is experiencing revitalization. I think that was a question brought to my attention. I'm doing research into that. These are questions. Why are, I'm not saying all the time or it's happening predominantly, but this is brought to my attention. Why does the African American community consistently experience revitalization? If you know the answer to that, let me know. I'll be talking about that. Also bankruptcy of a city as well. Affordable housing is the, good morning, sir. Affordable housing is obviously, and that could be bad choice of words on the terminology, but because we know that terminology, affordable housing obviously is a topic of conversation. Some people tell me that affordable housing could end up being $250,000 to $350,000. That's affordable housing, where some experts feel that affordable housing needs to be anywhere between $150,000 to $175,000. That should be the price point of affordable housing at the minimum. You see these things happening in your community, or you see these things happening in your neighboring communities. Question is, as these things are happening, you come up with we're talking disparity and displacement. What is the action plan? We know that it's happening. We know that it's something that's not good based upon the filling and the restructuring and everything. But do you have an action plan? Do you personally have an action plan? Not only for yourself, but for your community. And if you have an action plan, Do the people that you're working with, that are advocating with, do they have an action plan? And with your idea of an action plan and their idea of an action plan, you guys can put together a collective action plan and move on the same beat. Very important. What is the action plan for both here in the area as well as the where you must go, if you can afford? What is the action plan? Then you also have, the taxing of the elderly and low-income residents and how that affects, displacement. Those are conversations to have. Also, didn't learn this word until I moved to Nashville, moved out to the southeast region, gentrification. Excuse my ignorance on not knowing that earlier. But coming from Southern California, from my perspective, the time I was born, it was already there. And, as far as everyone being settled, the dust settling, and pretty much everybody just going through their day-to-day. But when I came to the southeast region and being able to see these great cities, the one behind me, these great cities that look good, that are clean and all that good stuff on the rise, when I came to the southeast, I thought it would be more cows and meadows and all that stuff. And I moved out here, I thought these actual cities that were monetarily undervalued. And as people are relocating based upon cost and taxes, these are great cities to move to, because even though things are increasing for the local native, people that are moving in 9 times out of 10 are moving in from a more expensive environment. So they're already winning, by moving in. So, when it comes to gentrification, or people that's been able to move into a particular geographical location because, it's less expensive, when it comes to gentrification, what is there to talk about? What should we be talking about? I'm asking you. What is there to talk about? What should we be talking about? Some good research, if you're looking to stay ahead in your community, is to find out more about what is the difference, or what are the trends, or what are the functions of a consumer-based economy and an experience-based economy. Do you know and have you heard of a consumer-based economy and experience-based economy? What are they? What are the differences? And how do they affect your day-to-day life? A lot of people don't realize that possibly urban cores, the urban is replacing suburban, and jobs are going to the generation these days and not the generation going to the jobs. It's a whole different time, and so jobs are moving to where the people are, where the skilled people are, compared to now skilled people are moving to where the jobs are. So that's what's happening. And then you get into free markets, how do free markets affect your community, affect your lifestyle, and things like inclusionary zoning. Those are topics of conversation. These are all things that are coming down the pike that we must talk about. Hope I'm not rambling. These are things that that I deal with as a CEO of a full-service sales and marketing firm headed by my wife and I. And again, our job is to connect the public and private sector to diverse communities for business development, recruiting, or for retention. And what that consists of is grassroots marketing and recruiting, looking to increase your client count, at least looking to increase your customer base, looking to increase your revenue by connecting you to a new market, which is for us developing communities, diverse communities. We try our best to focus on B2B business and helping to increase diverse businesses' income. That's our biggest thing. And we work with skilled experts and small businesses and diverse businesses and connect them to the corporations right here for a number of reasons. And so in that, we're focusing always on business development, increasing long-term growth and revenue for our clients. And for that to happen, you also have to retain your clients and retain your customers, retain your employees. So we also provide soft skill training as well for strong customer reviews and to ensure that your employees are able to connect and talk to one another for retention. That can include manager to non-manager and vice versa. And then we also provide community relations solutions, which is pretty much what we're talking about now. Looking from a perspective of developer or a landowner or a business owner, and the perspective of a community resident, and how the two can merge. And these are the topics that I go through, that I'm constantly learning and making sure that those that are hired within our firm are skilled in, because these are the topics of conversation. And so, bottom line is, when it comes to development, they say that housing is growth and growth is jobs. And that's how you engage the market, So you look at the housing. If the housing is growing, that means the jobs is growing, and that's a growing market. And they say in that, as the area grows, transit becomes a huge topic of conversation. As people move in, is your transit system, your transit infrastructure able to ensure that people are moving consistently at all times, both physically and virtually? Someone, great growing friend, mentor, business owner, told me, Donovan, our firm, is a virtual business as well, in regards to, if one of our employees, lives, 45 miles out, but there's traffic at 8, 9 in the morning, it doesn't make sense to have that individual sitting in traffic for 2 hours, frustrated, anxiety high, to get to the office. We're able to have our laptop, and they can call in and say, hey, you know what? It's really bad traffic, so I'm gonna do my work here for 2 hours, and then I'm gonna come into the office in a few hours when the traffic dies down. So but that's movement. You gotta have mass transit, you gotta have transit over the ground, you gotta have transit under the ground. These are conversations if you're looking to have a thriving community. Then also, gotta keep the people moving, and also the airport is the front door to your city or to your country or to your county, the airport. And if you have a smooth running airport, you're able to bring business in, import, export, all those good things. So these are things that we're doing when it comes to urban core development, land development, community relations, for our clients in the private sector, as well as in the public sector. And within that, community relations, we're also specialized in grassroots marketing. That's how we service our clients in the area of business development. We have some really great grassroots marketing strategies that are affordable, effective, local, that will allow you to not only increase your sales activity, your sales pipeline, closing of your sales, but also help you with your brand in the community. So this is Danavan Hylton, hanging out in beautiful Nashville, just giving you an idea of some things to think about if you're a developer, business owner, community or neighborhood leader. And when it comes to truly connecting the public and private sector, we're continuing to grow our brand, continuing to grow what we're doing, and we're priding ourselves to not influence, but to serve as a facilitator and a communicator between the neighborhoods and the communities and the business world, to ensure that the dialogue is there, and we pray that it could be a win-win deal. Danavan Hylton, CEO of Hylton Marketing Agency, wishing you a great rest of the day and reminding you we're more than just business. And if you felt this message was of value to you in any way, thank you for clicking the link below to donate what you felt monetarily, the value of what you felt this message was. You know that we run a self-sustaining business, and every dollar counts, as we pride ourselves on staying out of debt. And so click the link. We have Express Employment Professionals right there behind us, one of our premier clients. We provide grassroots marketing for that firm there, and helping them connect to local skilled residents that are looking for employment, as Express does an outstanding job connecting with employers to ensure that local residents get to work. So community relations, grassroots marketing, soft skill training, give us a call. Wish you a great rest of the day. Talk to you soon.